Yeah.
So one of the things that we were going to talk about today is some general kind of topics is all to do with socials. Um, what's hot at the moment? What should people kind of watch out for at the end of this year and for 2023?
Yeah. So TikTok is still as hot as ever. I think it's been hot for a while, but it's still hot now. There's still a lot of businesses that aren't taking advantage of that platform right now, like they could be. And that is, I mean, you just need to be on there in any capacity, whether that's creating content organically or advertising or kind of setting up your shop on there. You definitely need to be on there. So that's one of the main
Is that
ones.
for you think that for any type of business? Obviously, even like B2B trade industrial stuff, or is it more consumer stuff or anything?
I would say so, yeah, even
Oh,
B2B
wow.
trade. 'Cause, I mean, if you do it well enough, you will reach the correct people. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. There is decision makers on there. It might not be as powerful and directly targeted as something like LinkedIn might be for a B2B client, but it just depends how you measure the success of the channel. If you
Oh,
want to build brand awareness, it's fantastic, and you may get some leads in off the back of that. Um, and it builds a better, like I said, brand reputation for the company, for hiring and stuff as well. So yeah, I definitely recommend it for everybody.
and then other platforms, other things that people should consider.
I'd keep a close eye on Twitter,
What?
which
Because Elon
now
Musk.
that yeah, now that he's taken over, just to see what goes on. Obviously, there seems to be he's a bit like Marmite at the moment, where the people either kind of love Twitter now that he's here, or are just like, yeah, I'm straight off this platform. But I think there's going to be some changes to like advertising and stuff as well. So I definitely watch out for that because we don't like offer that as a service right now
Hmm.
on Twitter.
Hmm.
And it mainly is because it's just like we don't feel the ad platform is as strong as the other ones. Um, and yeah, I think for across all channels as well, in terms of advertising, is just shopping experiences and just watching that sort of continuously improve.
Okay.
TikTok already has it really good with obviously like live shopping. I feel like other platforms will follow suit very shortly and
No,
add other features too.
because I was reading an article and it was to do with how Facebook and a lot of the others. What's funny though is because Facebook made a conscious decision about 4 or 5 years ago not to go mega addictive algorithm, and they went a slightly different. And then the space that apparently they left is what TikTok filled to just be mega addictive swipe. And it was that balance of, but you've got all these different platforms, and a lot of them seem to want to copy each other. So we'll do stories, and we'll do stories as well, and we'll do Snapchat, and we'll
Yeah,
do swipey stuff, and it's almost. I think there's a guy called Mark Ritson who's a famous marketing guy, but he was talking about how if you all just start copying each other, you'll all just be an average version of everything.
yeah,
That like I remember when Facebook first came out, and it was because it was at the time when it was universities only. It was like quite a long time ago.
yeah,
And actually, it used to be all your friends, your family, stuff they post, and then you see it, like it, whatever.
yeah,
But now it's 90% adverts, but it's the point where I've almost like stopped using it. And
yeah,
it's a really funny one. It's how platforms can almost come and go. And then the big thing again with the with Facebook is the fact that since Apple changed the privacy on the phone, their revenues have started to tank for targeted ads. And have you thought much, or what's your opinion on the metaverse?
I don't know. I did. I think we actually touched on this in the podcast with Chloe, and I just don't know right now how it kind of is going to go and how it's going to integrate into our life because right now as it stands there was a lot of elements that just didn't work for it, like for example just getting the gear to enter the metaverse is just
Yeah.
not accessible for everybody, so it's not necessarily a mass market kind of thing right now. And then just again with how it works and what we do, it's going to take a lot of work, so I think it's hard for me
Yeah, I
personally to
agree.
see where it goes and what it turns into.
Because it was a Marquez Brownlee video on YouTube yesterday, and he actually met Zuckerberg, and they were showing the new platform. And Facebook's approach is almost that they've now gone all in, or they changed the name quite literally to Meta,
Yeah,
because they don't want to just have the platform on the internet. They want to create the structure and everything around it. And I have an Oculus VR headset down there, and it's trying to just get a feel for that. But essentially, it will all come down to how does this company make money? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there'll be loads of great ways that you could give a great experience, but people are only going to do it if they can make money off it. So therefore, it comes back to ads.
yeah,
And it's just what's interesting from a business strategy point of view you always want to align yourself with where the money is. Does that make sense? So, for
Hmm.
instance, back in the day, if you're the person that sells electricity and electricity power lines or water pipelines, if you actually own the infrastructure, you're in a much better position because people are always going to need it. But the
Yeah.
point being, for you and your business, because the future of the internet will inherently be driven by ads and paid stuff, because that's where the money comes from, even with Google. If you control and can give value in that sphere, that's always going to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the platforms themselves change, because there was a point when TikTok didn't exist and Snapchat and whatever, that it's just, yeah, it's interesting just to see how it all plays out, because I'm still not on TikTok. I technically have it. I've been on it twice. It's a bit too addictive that I'm a bit cautious of it.
It
But when
is.
you've got Pinterest and all, there's so much stuff out there
Yeah.
that it's no cool.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to? We'll go two different scenarios. We'll go for people themselves. So you work for another business, you're in your career, or you're a student. What's your opinion? What platforms should people be doing, and almost what should they be doing on them in terms of like personal branding or just building a following or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the two platforms that stand out to me for that is LinkedIn and TikTok. So TikTok for content creation around like day in the life, how you got into what you do. Other elements like that is how you give other people a bit of an insight into how certain elements work that you wouldn't normally see every day. So that's one of the main things that I do on my TikTok is
Okay.
giving people insight into the journey, what happens in the background, how to do certain things, and from that they take value and they'll kind of follow you on your journey. So I think that would be a good one for someone in like a career or a student to kind of, even if it's just, mapping out their own journey online and just allowing people to follow them. And then LinkedIn for a similar reason, but to kind of build a network and almost like a foundation to start from, no matter what point you're at. So if you're a student, you have a foundation where you can maybe find work, or if you're in a career, you've got another foundation to kind of branch off
Mm-hmm.
to if you're not, if you want to move roles. Um, and I think with LinkedIn, again, that one is about sharing the journey, sort of successes, the failures, what you're learning. And I think a lot of people forget to mention like your sort of connection strategy. And
Okay.
like it's not very complex, what I recommend, but I personally, for what I do, I connect with either marketers who are going to resonate well with my content, or I connect with decision makers who are
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to
I
either take value from it or look at it and say, he knows what he's talking about.
yeah,
Let's give
yeah,
those
yeah.
guys a call. And so yeah, that's how I kind of build my network at the moment.
Because I think part of it is that with it's either not knowing what to do, because the big thing when TikTok first kind of came out, everyone was dancing on it, and it's that's not
Yeah,
for everyone.
yeah.
So I think there's that, but then it's one of the big things. What's your views on consistency?
Yeah, I think that plays a part, but I also think there's a balance because if you're gonna post for the sake of keeping consistency, there still has to be consistency and quality as well. So, it's probably better to miss out a few days of posting if you know what you're posting
Yeah.
is a good piece of content or it's not valuable, rather than just filling a quarter of posting like once per day. I don't post once a day, just because like on days like today where I've just like I said to you at the start, I've had a few creative blocks a day. I don't really want to force a post out. I don't really
Mm.
want to, and you kind of get into that thing where you see everyone else posting today. I've seen a lot of good posts today as well. And I'm like, God, that's such a good thing that they've thought of. And I'm like totally blank. And it's just best to just miss it out instead.
No, I respect that. I think that one of Chloe's other, again, but I like to watch other creators and see what people do and get ideas. But one of her other guests was a guy from Middlesbrough who got TikTok famous. His
Yeah.
his name escapes me, but actually,
Caffeine.
what he was saying was actually it's the pressure to almost constantly deliver that it's it's tough because to creatively come up with something that people might find funny all the time,
Yeah.
I can imagine how that would actually get on top of you and almost become a pain in the ass, if you know what I mean. It's there's a fine
Yeah. Yeah.
balance between what you enjoy, and in his story it was almost where he really enjoyed it and he wanted to get to here, then he did get there and actually it wasn't what he thought. It's I think it's all of the kind of pros and cons with your own kind of TikTok journey. Is it correct that you did quite well?
Well, it's a good start, yeah. We're at, I think about 41,000 followers at the moment.
But that's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just, I think, because you've had various posts kind of go viral, and when you were in the newspaper as well.
Yeah, I think the Metro article, and there was, well, it got posted a couple other places as well, but that was around like the mainly like the agency itself. But I think they did find us through TikTok.
Wow. Do
One
you want
of
to
the one
explain
of
to people
the
what the article was?
Yeah, it was just a story about how we kind of put together that whole story. So it was a really good headline for them, to be honest, where it was man sacked from apprenticeship, now runs six-figure agency,
Yeah.
which is like, I think that's a good way to put the achievement,
And
I
it's
guess.
a great headline. It's great because this is one of the things that I get. Is how much YouTube do you do or not much?
I started in lockdown and just couldn't keep up with the consistency that was required. Yeah, so
Because
not a huge.
but one of the things that I found, all the stuff that people tell you to do is arguably clickbait. So it's exactly that. It's brilliant headlines that makes you go, "Ooh, I'll click on that."
Yeah,
But it's very easy to then go into a rabbit hole of just creating clickbaitable stuff
yeah,
as opposed to stuff you actually want to talk about and do. And
definitely.
it's a funny world that some people make careers just on views and just on AdSense and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I can definitely see where that pressure comes from. So like, when you're talking about Jack, who's the content creator on TikTok, him and many others have a lot of pressure, especially when you're having to create that content because that's your lifeline. Not only are you, benefiting from the sort of ads revenue, but also any sort of deals with brands and things like that. They're going to want to see sort of fresh, relative content. You're going to need to continue to get those high views to
Mhm.
work with them. So it's a lot of pressure, definitely.
No, cool. Before we kind of wrap up the whole social angle, imagine you're parachuted into a new company who has actually, what's funny, so I'm on Team Valley in Gateshead, and
Yeah.
there's like 20,000 businesses here. There's a lot. It's a big business park. And there are businesses today in 2022 that don't have a website, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But you get, drafted into a new business, doesn't matter what it is, to do some consultancy. What do you recommend that people do to go from naught to something decent? What would you recommend in 2022, 2023 that businesses should almost set up and then put some time and effort into?
Yeah. I think they need to kind of analyze their strong point in terms of a marketing perspective. So if it was a very B2B, let's say it was like an IT support company for other businesses, that's very maybe look at as like quite corporate. There's two approaches. You go down like the LinkedIn route and content creation. I think before we jump into any specifics, I think that's where it
Okay.
lies, is like it's around content creation, picking a platform that you think is most sort of, reflective of your business, where your audience may be, and then creating content on there.
Hmm.
And the sooner you do that and start creating, the sooner you kind of find out what content works, what doesn't work,
Hmm.
and you start to form better plans. Um, but it could be you could go down the kind of what I would suggest as the safe route and what makes more sense, which would be like LinkedIn if it was like a B2B thing and creating content, or you could go down the route that's a little bit more risky and probably one that not many people would approve of, but go on TikTok and maybe just create, meme content or some stuff that's completely humorous. Like I think a prime example, there was like a guy on there who just mows lawns.
Hmm.
It's just in a local area, and he used to create videos that I think I posted it on LinkedIn, and every time he'd post it, he'd do like a before. So it was like the grass really long and it'd have like a baseline song on it. And then as the baseline song dropped, his logo would appear and it was like Dan Moorman or something like that. And it was just so like stupid, like no one, it wasn't like a marketing technique. You could tell the guy was just jumping on TikTok and just posting stuff. He didn't really know what he was doing. And he just went completely viral, ended up getting like millions of views.
Wow.
And I just think if you can, that's the other route you can go down where it's like, it'd probably be hard to get approved by everybody at the top as well. But if you dig into it and do it well,
No, I get
it
you.
could go well.
Because I think one of the things that almost also blows my mind is that, so I'm 39, and I grew up kind of with the start of the internet. It was all about search engines. I still remember the first time I ever went on a search engine. It was in the school library. I was with some friends. It was Yahoo at the time. I remember saying to them, "How do you even know what to type in?" But the point is that the world was built on Google, Yahoo, MSN, whatever, Bing,
Yeah.
where you type in, "I'm looking for new shoes that are brown," or whatever. Anyway, and it would tone you. I think people understand what that is. But there are whole generations now of people that don't go to a search engine to search for their products. They actually search for hot yellow Crocs on TikTok.
Yeah.
And obviously, but the point is, and I'm guilty of it as well, what I think works on the internet isn't actually what people do. And one thing that really blew my mind the other day, there's a big Tesco in the middle of Gateshead, and I was there just doing my shopping. I was at the cash machine, and whilst I was waiting, there was a girl who was probably 10, just sat outside, back against the glass, on a phone, and the speed that she was, honestly blew my mind. And the point is, I don't know how other people actually use
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I think I do, but because I don't use TikTok, oh, nobody else must. And
Yeah.
that almost the ability to solve that one, to share knowledge and experience. So for you as a social company or whoever, to explain to B2B businesses, which are fairly kind of, old fashioned.
Mm.
No, you want to be doing this, this, and this is why, because actually the next whole generation of people, they don't even use Google. They don't use
Yeah.
that. They don't use that. This is how they do it. And that's why you want to be there. But my point being, it's the unknown unknowns that actually, as the decision maker, you have to inherently trust someone like you to guide you on the right path, because you're walking in the dark without a torch and you haven't got a clue what's there. And that's very true. But it just blows my mind when you actually see people use their device. It's
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
different to what I do. And it's not that I'm right or they're wrong. But the point is, you don't want to miss half the population of the world just because you think everyone's like you. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
definitely. Yeah, yeah, oh, 100%. Yeah, well, that comes down to like something that we account for when we're creating content is that attention span and that kind of like what you would call thumb stop rate. So how quickly or how much time you've got to kind of stop them, and then how long they stay there with you. And then that's kind of, and I mean, it's really small these days. It is literally between like, I don't know the exact figure, but I think it's about between 2 and 5 seconds, if that. I think
Wow.
5 is pushing it a lot as well. That's quite a long
Wow.
time to spend, thinking about if they're going to stay and look at this content.
And speaking of which, thank you to anyone that's watching on Instagram as well, which is always kind of good.